All right, Joey, we are back for episode 11, and we have a new guest with us today.
Yes, today we are playing Win, Lose, or Draw. Pictionary.
Yeah, some kind of, a hangman a little bit, maybe.
Welcome to game night.
Yes.
So,
No, unfortunately, we're going to go very far from game night, and we're going to do some math. We're going to do some learning.
You heard it here first. We're going far from fun and games to boring and math.
Yes, but I'll try to, keep things light and interesting as we're doing the math and trying to learn.
Yes, and why are we doing math?
Well, last week we did networking nuts and bolts,
Okay.
and I mentioned IP addresses.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the episode, I said, we may do a deeper dive on this.
Yeah.
And so that deeper dive is coming this week.
Okay.
If last week was nuts and bolts and, what kind of hardware you might have in a toolbox, now we're going to break that hardware down. So we're going to talk about, the number of threads or the pitch on a screw, or, machine screws versus self-tappers versus, maybe wood screws, or that kind of thing. So we're going to break down that hardware just a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I talked about IP addresses, and I said, okay, IP addresses, you can have public, you can have private, dynamic, static. We hit all those things. But what the heck is an IP address other than it's your address, right?
Right.
So how do we break it down? What are we going to do with it? Why do I wear this shirt? What does this shirt mean? So we're going to talk about this shirt and what this shirt means in just a few, and
where you can buy one.
Oh yeah, well, Amazon for everything nowadays.
There you go.
But we're going to hit all those things.
Yeah.
But first, tell us what we're drinking.
Well, because you decided to get really complicated,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to get really simple.
Okay.
Because probably somewhere in the midst of this, my brain's going to hurt so much I don't want to think about what recipe I'm going to make next.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going complicated networking. So we're going very simple cocktails.
Okay.
This first one, super popular, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, we did the home bar episode. Gosh, feels like forever ago now. And this is something you should be able to make from your home bar. This, if you can't tell by the delivery, is a Moscow Mule, kind of. So, fun fact about the Moscow Mule is that this drink was not invented in Moscow.
Okay.
It began a long time ago. It was a dark and stormy night. Probably not. I don't know. It's probably actually, there was no rain at all because this was LA.
Yeah.
In the 40s, and it doesn't really rain in LA. But back in the 40s, there was a guy who ran a restaurant on the Sunset Strip. I think it was called Cock and Bull, which is a great name for a restaurant. Hopefully they did chicken tenders and burgers.
Yes.
But he had a friend. His friend had just acquired the rights to, I think in the States, for a little drink that nobody's ever heard of called Smirnoff vodka.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow they ended up meeting up with some lady who had just immigrated in from Russia, and her family had owned a copper company. And so she had like 2,000 copper mugs that she was trying to sell. So she's going around town trying to peddle her wares, ends up at this restaurant where this guy is trying to come up with a brand new cocktail for his cock and bull. And it sounds so weird. And, he's sitting there with his buddy who's selling Smirnoff vodka, and they're like, what do we do? And she shows up with these copper mugs, and they're all like, So, long story short, we have a drink that began with Smirnoff vodka, ginger beer, splash of lime, in a copper mug. And apparently, I'm no scientist, and I don't think maybe there's some weird technical thing about it, but apparently there's some kind of chemical reaction when you combine the lime juice and the ginger with the copper. It, I don't know, gets more carbonated, feels a little bit more pronounced in the flavoring and stuff. All I know is these copper mugs are so freaking cold. Like,
oh yeah,
don't lick this. You ever seen The Christmas Story where that kid gets his tongue stuck to the flagpole?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's going to happen on this mug. I'm like, ugh. So if you see me over here like pretending to drink, I'm just trying to unstick my tongue from the...
It's even transferring to the handle, and this condensation on the handle from how cold it is. It's pretty cool.
And because we are us, this is a variation of the old Moscow Mule. I just gave it away. This is a Kentucky Mule.
Okay.
It is a Moscow Mule, but instead of vodka, it's made with bourbon. And, you may say, that's an interesting variation, but it's not the only one. There's a Mexico Mule, which is made with, you guessed it, tequila. There's an Irish Mule made with Irish whiskey. There's, pick something. The French Mule is cognac. Whatever alcohol, liquor you want to put in with ginger beer and a lime and a copper mug, they have a name for it.
Yeah, and it's going to end with mule, probably.
It's going to always end with mule, and it's probably going to be as obvious as you think it is. An Irish Mule is, I said Irish Mule, I think, Irish whiskey, but they've got like a Scotch Mule. And, so, yeah, it's really not hard to figure it out. That's why it's so simple, and that's why it goes so well with this topic today.
Yes.
So, if you are not a ginger beer fan, but you have a lot of vodka from your home bar, another super, super simple cocktail is actually the very first cocktail I ever drank when I was underage at my brother's wedding, and that is a screwdriver.
Okay.
Which is just a pour of vodka in a glass with some ice and fill it with OJ. So easy. Everybody has that. So you don't even have to think about how you're getting tipsy this week. You're just going to have to, pour you something and then try and focus real hard on what's about to happen on this Pictionary game right here.
Yes. So, let's get into the Pictionary. When we hire new people that are going to work for us at our company, I always try to sit down and have a little lesson with them.
Okay.
Because even if they're not doing anything technical, if they're just installing equipment, I want them to at least have been exposed to the kind of stuff that they're going to see when they're, installing equipment. They may be looking at a setup page for a camera or whatever, and they're like, okay, what's this IP address thing? And then they're like, what's this subnet mask thing? And then what's this default router or default gateway thing? And I'm like, okay, let's sit down, let's find a dry erase board or a whiteboard, and let's examine what these numbers mean. What are we even doing?
After today, you'll be able to just pull up YouTube and hit play and walk away.
That's right. Yeah. I'm going to take today's episode and I'm going to give that to our new people.
That's right. You'll be like, not only are you going to learn about default gateways, you're going to learn how to make a Moscow Mule.
You know what? This is the best training video I think I've ever created.
That's right.
So that's what we're going to do. But before we can even begin about IP addresses, we got to talk about binary. Okay. I had I did a computer networking class in high school, and the principal for the school walked in to our class, and he said, these are the smart people in this class, or you're going to be smart by the time you're done with this course. And he said, you guys are learning binary. It's like the language of love. And I'm like, okay, maybe. We'll see.
The language of love, said no one ever.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, no one ever.
I got my wife by enchanting her with ones and zeros.
I'm going to come back to that in just a second. That's kind of funny, but I'm going to come back to that. So, binary starts with BI, which, most people who know the English language with Latin root words, bi means two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nary means a little yellow bird.
Like a canary.
Like Tweety bird. A binary is just Tweety bird that goes both ways.
No. And we just started drinking. Okay, so
we're off the rails, y'all.
When we count in America, we count using base 10 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which 10 is actually just a repetition of 0 and 1.
Yep.
Right? So we just combine those. If we're going to do base 2 or binary, then you don't go 0 through 9 to do your numbers. You do 0 through 1 because it's two numbers, base 2. So 0 and 1. There's something called hexadecimal, which is what MAC addresses use. That's 0 through 15 because there's 16 hexadecimal.
Okay.
10 and 6. So that is going to use 0 through 9 plus A, B, C, D, E, F. That gives you 16 characters.
Okay.
So binary is zeros and ones. Okay. Here's where I'm going to come back to what you said a while ago. 0 is off. 1 is on. So I got my first wife by turning her on. That's the end of that. So
I was trying to wrap my head. I'm like, you gave her a 1?
oh well, yeah. Yeah.
You're like, baby, you're the one.
Sure.
And then she was turned on. That's how it works.
So
Man, don't listen to us for dating advice.
No, definitely not. But IP addresses, they're going to be written in a form very similar to this. Okay?
Okay.
You're going to have a first number, a second number, third number, fourth number. 127,001 separated by decimal points here.
Yep.
Okay. Then what you might see is going to be a slash and then another number. Typically, you're going to see 24. We're going to come back to this later. So just ignore that for now, but you might see that when you're looking at it. Okay. But this first set here, this is going to be called an octet. An octet, oct means 8. You think of an octagon, it has 8 sides, like a stop sign.
Or an octopus.
Or an octopus has 8 legs. So this is an octet, this is an octet, octet, octet. Well, 8 what? Well, it's going to be 8 characters in a binary format, right? So you're going to have either 0 or 1, and we're just going to do all zeros first. Okay. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. That's your first octet. Okay. So this value is represented by zeros or ones, and then we convert it into base 10 so that, humans understand it. So this represents the number 0. Now, where does the number 0 come from? In fact, let's do this so everybody can see the screen a little bit better. And I need to write a little bit darker. Okay, so we need to talk about these characters and their place values. Okay. Binary gives us a 0, 1, and on or off. Okay. Each of these numbers represents a value, and we're going to talk about what that value is. So let's do this. We're going to do dark ones. There's 8. Okay, this value is going to represent the number 1. This value represents the number 2. This one is 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. As you can see, we just went up by a power of 2. So 1 times 2, 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8 times 2, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you convert these zeros into ones, you're turning that bit on. So if you change this to a 1, then this value, instead of representing 0, is going to represent 1. At the same token, if you keep that as 0 and you turn this to 1, then it's going to be an 8. Okay. If you turn that to 1 and that to 1, you have 8 plus 1 is 9. Okay.
So how do you get... Hold on. Okay, never mind. I was going to say, how do you get the 127 on your shirt? But clearly the first one would have to be a 0 and it would add up the rest.
Exactly.
Something else.
So the easy way to do this is every value to the right of a number, when added together, is going to give you the number right before that next number. So if all of these are ones, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus 32 plus 64 is going to give you 127, which is the number right before 128.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So, well, we'll just say if this was a 1 here, then that'd be the value of 2. If that's a 0 and that's a 1, then it's a value of 1. It's just 1 less than this number.
Okay.
So, but if you have 1 plus 2, that's 3. That's 1 less than this number.
Right, and then 7. Okay.
Okay, so that's how you get 127, is all of these are 1s.
Got it.
Okay?
And that's because the first one's 1. If the first one was a 2, it would equal the number before it.
Exactly, but we always start with 1.
Man.
Okay, so the most common network scheme that you might see is going to be 192, 168, probably the next number is going to be 1, and then some x value, okay?
Okay.
So 192, 168, 1.x.
Yep.
So if you want to get 192, you look at this and you go, okay, what numbers do I need to add in order to get 192? Well, first of all, you start with 128 because it's your biggest number. Can 128 fit into 192?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So 128, that is going to give you 192 minus 128. 12 minus 8 is 4. 8 minus 2 is 6. And that's 0. So it's 64.
Okay. So the first two.
So the first two, because you got 128 and 64, that gives you 192. So this value is going to be represented by 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Okay.
Easy enough, right?
Sure.
We haven't done anything complicated yet.
It's as easy as a Moscow Mule.
That's right. All we've done
like
so
Sunday
far
morning.
is we've turned the bits on, decided which bits needed to be turned on based on the value we're looking for.
How do we know what the values need to be?
Okay, so last week we talked about classes extremely briefly. We said, okay, there's a class A, a class B, and a class C.
Yeah.
Class A is going to be 10.0.0.0 or 10.x.x.x is better representation. Class B is going to be something like 172.16.x.x, and class C is going to be like 192.168.1 probably .x. Now those, I said classes are what we based off networking at the very beginning, and then we had to go away from classes. There's also a class D and a class E, so I'll just make that clear. Class D is for something totally different, and class E is for it's reserved for future testing. For the most part, you just ignore D and E. You're not going to think about them in a home network kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I really don't think about D and E ever.
Yeah.
So to be fair,
with A, B, and C, you're going to think of those. A is going to be it's a larger scheme, so it's going to be more like your ISPs or more like your enterprise networks kind of thing. B is going to be a smaller scheme. It's got less addresses or less host addresses that you can use, so it's going to be maybe not quite as big of an enterprise network. It's maybe a place that's got 5 or 6 locations kind of thing. Then class C, where you got this is going to be your small networks. This is your small businesses or your home networks or things of that nature, okay? So we're going to take all of this and we're going to go a little bit crazier, okay? So this is 192, right? So then you have 168, you would do the same thing. Does 168 fit here? It does. Then you got 40 left, so you can't use 64, so that's off. You got 32, so that's on. So you can do 128 and 32.
It's 160 and then
160. Then you add 8, so it's going to be 1 0 1 0 1 0 0 0. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what you would put here. Then 1. You're
That's
going to have
easy.
0 0 0 0 0, and you have just the 1 is turned on. And then X. This is going to be your hosts. So I talked about network and host bits last week. Didn't explain them at all, except for to say that they were part of IP addresses. Okay. So now let's explain them. Every time that you see an IP address, if you get on your computer, you open up command prompt, you type in IPCONFIG as IPconfig, it's going to give you your IP address settings. You can find your IP address in other locations, but that's how techs do it a lot. Okay. Right there with the IP address, if you do an IPconfig, it's going to give you your subnet mask, which is reflective of this CIDR or cider number. We'll come back to that later.
I do like cider.
Yeah, that's what we need to make for our next drink.
Oh man.
So then after your subnet mask, you have the default router or default gateway. Okay, your subnet mask is going to tell you how many addresses are reflective of your network side and how many addresses are reflective of your host side.
Okay.
Well, what does that mean? Host is any device that gets an IP address. Okay. So we talked about smart homes. So now your Alexa device, you have sensors on your toilet that measure how good of a bowel movement you have.
Don't tell people that.
Yeah, I mean, you got light sensors, you can turn things on and off with switches. You got printers, computers, phones, smartphones, all of these things, right? All of those things get an IP address so they can communicate with other devices and ergo communicate with the internet.
Okay. If
you have it connecting to the internet.
I mean, that would be the point, right?
Most of the time, yes. Yep. Or at least, if you have a local area network, you're trying to communicate devices, maybe you don't need your printer to talk to the internet, but you need your computer to talk to your printer.
Actually, the point would be to figure out the kind of bowel movement you're having if your toilet has a sensor.
Yes. Okay. So that's what the subnet mask does. It decides what is a host and what is part of the network.
Okay.
Your default router or default gateway, that's your gateway to go to the outside world. So if you have 192.168.1.x, maybe your computer is 1.5, a lot of times, this is not written in stone, but a lot of times you're going to have 1.1 as being your default router or gateway.
Okay.
You tend to look for an address maybe at the very beginning of your hosts or at the very end of your hosts.
Okay.
Okay, so now we need to talk about how many hosts you can have, right? So this is /24.
Yep.
And to write that in binary, how we would write that is, well, we'll write it in decimal first.
16 plus 8.
Yeah, so not binary, but we're going to write this in, base 10. So it's going to be 255, 255, 255, dot 0.
Oh, I was going to say 255.
So what does this mean? This is octets again, right? So if there's 8 bits in here, that's going to give you 255, which if you think about what comes next, here's 8 and it's by powers of 2. What comes after 128?
256.
256. So what did I say? If you do all ones, it's always going to be 1 less than the next bit. So 255 is going to be all ones.
All ones, got it.
Okay, so this is written 1111111. I think that was 8. Maybe. You check my math there.
Yeah.
Right? So then dot, and then all 8 ones, then dot, 8 ones, dot, zeros, 8 zeros. Okay?
Yeah.
If we think about that, that's an octet, 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 octet. So 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 8 is 24, /24, there's your 24 bits right there.
Okay.
Okay? So again, written like this.
But the zeros still have 8.
They do, but they're all off.
Okay.
We're only counting what's on. Okay? So we got 8 there. 8. 8. So subnet mask, you only count what is on. The other thing is, a subnet mask is always going to be on left to right. So you're never going to have like zeros here and then ones here and then zeros here and then ones here. It's always going to be counted left to right with ones. So how long this number is always going to count from here over. So if it's a /22, then you just have these last 2 as being zeros.
Gotcha.
If it's a /26, you creep into this set to do 2 more ones, right?
Okay.
So again, our line is right here. Now, why do we do this to begin with? We talked about you need...
No idea.
You need hosts and you need network, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to get rid of this.
Oh, the internet. Thought it was just about cat videos.
Yeah, you would think, right? So we said this is 192. So we're going to do 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. This is 168. So what did we say? It was 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0.
Something like that.
4, nope, 0. And then 1, so 0. Obviously, you would maybe write this a little bit bigger. And for the sake of it, we're going to say 1.5, just for ease of use.
Okay.
So 0, 0, 0, 0. This is 1, this is 2, this is 4. So we're going to do a 4, we're going to do a 0, and then a 1.
Okay.
So we got 4 plus 1 is 5.
Yep.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to add them together. And we're going to use math that doesn't make sense.
Common core.
Common core. All
Perfect.
Right. So we're going to add together these values, right?
That was for all the teachers out there. You're welcome.
All that we need to add together is where you have a 1 plus a 1.
Okay.
1 plus 1 equals 1 in this case.
That's
1 plus 0
backwards.
or 0 plus 1 equals 0. And 0 plus 0 equals 0. So the only time that you get a 1 is if you have 1 plus 1.
Okay.
Because what you're basically taking a true value and a true value and making it true.
Really multiplying at this point.
Kind of, but you don't. Yeah, okay, we'll say that, all right?
I mean,
so
it makes sense.
Right, 1 and 1, we're going to say is 1.
Yep.
1 and 1 is 1. Then you got a lot of zeros here, so that's all zeros to finish it out. Okay? You got a 1, you got a 0, a 1, a 0, a 1, zeros to finish. These are all zeros except for this one, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. you might notice that it looks a lot like this.
And then everything's going to be zeros.
Then this is all zeros. Okay, so what have we learned?
Nothing.
Yeah, what we've learned is our subnet mask combined with our IP address told us that this value and this value and this value is going to be your network, because it's where you get your ones down here. You got all zeros here, okay? Mm-hmm. So because it was /24, we did a line right there to say, all right, our hosts, not our host, our network is 192.168.1.0.host. I'm just going to say .host, but it could be .x, okay? Now, you said .0. The reason you would say .0, if you're actually writing it out, is that's what your network ID is.
Okay.
Okay, because you cannot assign 0 to a host. If you did, it would mess things up. You can assign 1 through 255, kind of. Come back to that in just a second. But 1 through 255 are good addresses. 0 is your network ID. 0 is your value that tells you what your network is. So if I did, instead of putting an X here, I did a 1.0. That tells me the same thing as 1.x. Now, X gives it leaves it open for your host so that it can be any value that goes in there. Mm-hmm. But 1.0 says, I'm in this scheme, 192.168.1.0. That's my scheme. Okay?
Okay.
So 1.0 is my scheme. Now, there's another address you can't use. That address is 255. 255 is a broadcast address. It's kind of like you got somebody sitting at the bar and they have information and they just yell it to everybody in the bar.
I know that guy.
Yeah, we all know one of those guys. So that's your broadcast address. 255 means scream it to everybody, not a specific address. Okay?
Okay.
So that leaves us with 1 through 254 that we can use as usable hosts.
Okay.
Okay.
Here, so I can only have 254 Alexa devices in my home?
That's right. If you use a /24
such a limitation.
scheme,
what if I need like 17 Alexa devices in each room of my house?
Okay. You can do that. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. If you need more, we can get you more.
Oh. Okay then.
But with an address that's a /24 or 255.255.255.0.
So wait, hold on. In theory, you said broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm pulling at things that aren't there. Maybe I'm understanding. But if I were to send something to 192.168.1.255, it would hit all my devices.
Everything in that network, yes.
Hey, look at me learning stuff.
Yep, because it's going to broadcast it to everything on that scheme.
Okay.
Okay. You don't want to do that.
I might. If I'm like, play Bon Jovi, and I want everything playing Bon Jovi at the same time, even my Roomba. I'm not sure how that would work, but
that would require some very interesting programming on the developer's side.
We'll do it.
So I mean, like, you can't just send it to those, but you can have broadcast addresses that go to all your devices, and the devices that can listen on that, maybe they'll listen. And
well, I mean, you know how your Roomba's like, you know, when it gets stuck and it's like, or it's full, and it's like, Roomba is recharging, and it announces it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing that, it can be like, living on a prayer. That'd be badass. Just saying.
Only it's going to change the words to living on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, you know, vacuuming your hair.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, we got it.
Pet hair for
Weird Al's got nothing on me.
Okay, so are we good with this so far?
I mean, I figured out how to broadcast Bon Jovi to my Roomba, so yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah, there we go. We can move on. We can go to the next thing. Okay. So here's an easy way. I mentioned you got 254 addresses. Here's an easy way, and we're about to talk about CIDR and how you can get more addresses for your Alexa devices.
CIDR.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you can get more. We're talking about how you could get less, and how you would calculate that. So we're going to hit changing this number to get more or less Alexa devices.
Yes.
But how you can calculate your host bits is going to be really simple.
Okay.
So if we're going to do, this is all, it's base 2, right? So we're going to do 2 to the value of n minus 2 is going to be equal to your host bits, okay? So we said we have 8 bits over here that are available to be 0 or 1 to be your host. So that n is represented by the number 8 now. So we got 2 to the 8th power minus 2, okay?
Okay.
An easy way to figure out what 2 to the 8th power is, well, that's, 2 times 8. How many addresses is that? 256.
Minus 2 is 254.
Okay, so 256 minus 2 equals 254 addresses. Now, there's a misnomer there because you absolutely have to have an address that's reserved for your default gateway. So you really have 253 usable addresses that you can use for clients and hosts and that kind of thing, computers, Alexa devices, whatever.
Okay.
But 254 is your total number of IP addresses that are assigned to a device, right? Can't use 0, and you can't use 255, okay?
Okay.
But what if we needed
Definitely
more?
Can't use 256.
Yeah, but what if we needed more hosts, right? Well, we just steal them, but we steal them with a purpose. So,
like Robin Hood.
Yes. So if you wanted more hosts, you have a network bigger than 254, you're going to rob from over here. Your subnet mask, you're going to make that smaller to make this side bigger.
Okay.
Okay. So let's rob 2 bits. Instead of this being a /24, it's now going to be a /22 because we're going to move 2 bits to the left.
Okay.
Okay. Now instead of 8 bits over here, we have 10 bits. So you're going to have 2 to the 10th minus 2. Okay, so if 256 is 2 to the 8th, then you have 512, then you have 1024, right? So 1024 minus 2 is 1022 hosts.
It's a lot more.
It's a lot more, significantly more.
Yeah.
Which means that's fantastic. You can have as many Alexa devices in your house as you want, basically. If you come up with 1022 Alexa devices in your house, you need a much bigger house.
I could start like a Roomba hockey team.
Yeah, you have way more than a hockey team. You're gonna have all the audience members for the hockey team as well.
Yes.
Okay, so that is how you're going to determine your number of host bits. But what do we do up here? Up here, we're going to take and change these to zeros and draw our line now over here. Okay, so now it's no longer 192.168.1 because we just cut off this 1 value.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do this math, then you don't get 1 anymore. You now only have 0.
Okay.
So what that does is it's going to change how, like, this number that you are going to use here. Mm-hmm. So these are zeros, these are zeros. Yep. Now 0 and 0, right? Mm-hmm. So now instead of 192.168.1.host or 1.x, you get 192.168.0.host or .x. But now you can go up to a value of 1022 instead of 254. Trying to decide how far we want to go in this because I know we got other things to talk about today. I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this portion up.
Okay.
Because we got other things we want to talk about. We got other drinks we want to, another drink to drink. But this is going to help you understand what's happening.
Help me sleep at night.
Yeah, if you need more addresses, you're going to rob for here.
Yeah.
If you need less addresses, you're going to give more addresses over here, okay?
Okay.
Why would you want to do this at all? Well, you mentioned one, you needed more Alexa devices on your network.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're
1,000 of them.
Yeah, you needed 1,000 devices on your home. So you increase
That's more like
that
a
value.
corporation, like an office building or something, right?
Yes, but in an office or a corporation, you're actually going to probably go smaller. And the reason you're going to go smaller is you're going to separate things. If you're, trying not to waste addresses because you want to use addresses other places, you're going to, move that from a /24 to maybe a /28. Okay. And the reason you want to go to /28 is you want to give 4 addresses or 4 bits so that you have less hosts, because you're going to have, maybe you got 192, 168.1, and you're going to have like 1 through 128 are going to be your computers. And then 129 through 256 or 254 are going to be your phones. Okay. So now you've separated, using the same scheme, you've separated your networks. And what's nice is if you change your subnet mask, then without proper rules in your firewall, you can't talk from the 1.1 through 128 and the 1.129 through 254. So because you are limiting that communication, you're breaking up where things fit.
So that's why you put like a guest Wi-Fi or something in an office building for your phones and like your mobile phones.
Yeah, it would probably be less of guest, because we mentioned VLANs last week. A VLAN is going to separate those. So now you've got, let's say we're using /24. You've got a 1.x, you have a 2.x, a 3.x, a 4.x. And so the 1.x is your phones, 2.x is your business computers, 3.x is your guest kind of thing.
Okay.
But what we're doing here is we're breaking it up or going down so that we're saying 1.2 is going to be, for a computer, and 1.200 is going to be for a phone.
Okay.
So you have different VLANs, but you might have VLANs that are different lengths, different number of hosts, because you might have an IoT network that needs to be limited to 5 or 6 addresses. Just remember, if you're making a scheme, a network scheme, you want to always ensure that you have enough IP addresses for future growth. So if you're going to make your network smaller because you're going to move these bits over and over and over and over, don't go all the way down to here and make it a /31 network unless you're only going to have 2 devices on your network. Because if you, I'm sorry, just 1 device on your network. Because if you do that, that device can't communicate to anything else on its own network. And then you may not have another device now, but you may get one, a year from now. And a year from now, your device can't communicate to the other device that you wanted to because you restricted yourself too much in the beginning. So always give yourself room for growth, but always make sure that you are trying to give the number of hosts for the number of devices you're going to have.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have hit on IP addresses enough that we can go into the next segment and talk about ports and protocols, NAT, and port forwarding.
Okay, let's do that.
So we will hit that in just a minute.
Okay. Time to refill.
Okay, so Joey, we've swapped drinks, obviously. We've got a totally different kind of glass in front of us.
Yes, we do.
So tell me what we've got now.
Yes, we do. So usually at the end of a long day, I've got decision fatigue. I'm tired. I just want to drink. Usually even after I've been making drinks in the bar all night. And I'm like, now what do I want to drink? The obvious answer is just bourbon.
Yeah.
Just bourbon. So here we have neat bourbon. Nothing in it. There's enough decisions in the world just trying to pick which bourbon you want to drink.
Yeah.
Let alone what to do with it.
Right.
So how to mix it. So here we've got Colpick Distillery. This is their wheated bourbon. Colpick's local. They're about an hour from here. And they are absolutely fantastic. I think we've had them in the tavern here for about 3 years now. And they're wonderful. And if you ever get a chance to go out to their distillery, they have Highland cows.
Okay.
The really cute ones that all the girls love, and they make paintings on stuff because they have all the hair and all that.
Yeah.
They're really great cows. They have them there. So go check them out. Even if you don't like bourbon, go for the cows. Stay for the bourbon.
I think that's true of any distillery you go to. Even if you don't care to drink a bourbon at a distillery, or if you go to a brewery and you don't care to drink beer, just go for the experience.
Yeah,
because
for the cows.
A lot of distilleries, a lot of breweries, they have other things there other than just the thing that they're selling the most of.
It's true.
But a lot of times there's a good experience. There's good activities to do where you can see how they make the drinks and look at the scientific process and that kind of thing. And that's super cool to do. So awesome. Yep. I don't think that I've ever had them.
Oh, it's so good. It's nice. And, you know, you may be watching at home and you may say, but I don't like bourbon neat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a very easy answer for you. Put a cube of ice in it.
Yep.
Yep. Man, and then it's not neat anymore. Then it's on the rocks. The cool thing about bourbon, and I think we've been teasing bourbon for a long time, since episode 1. And we will answer all your bourbon questions, but in the meantime, we need to know your bourbon questions. So go ahead and put those in the comments.
Yeah, that's right.
Why are you always talking about bourbon? Why will you not tell me the secrets of bourbon? What does bourbon taste like? Well, you know, the answers for bourbon are coming. But the cool thing about bourbon is you add a drop of water or two, it's going to change it. It's going to open it up. You're going to experience a lot more. My wife likes bourbon. She's more of a wine drinker, but she doesn't generally do neat bourbon.
Yeah.
She needs ice in hers because it completely changes the flavor profile.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too, right? When they pull it off the still, it's going to be, you know, X amount. And there's certain legal criteria in order to get bourbon to be bourbon. It has to come off the still at a certain proof, it has to go into the barrel at a certain proof, it has to come out of the barrel at a certain proof, go into the bottle at a certain proof, all that stuff. And the way you raise and lower the proof is by adding water.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that's also, you add a few drops in this. This is, I didn't even look, they're usually about 90. This is 100 proof.
Okay. So it's good little strength there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Barrett bottle and bond, but it doesn't, this is not bottled and bond. It just happens to be 100 proof. So, you know, you add an ice cube in it, let it sit for a minute. It might go down to 90 proof.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it'll burn a little bit less. It'll be a little bit smoother. You know, the higher the proof, the higher the alcohol content, which is where you're going to get that burn.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, so that's all that. So decision fatigue, just go for a bourbon neat, and then you don't have to worry about anything else.
And you might have, you know, mental fatigue after doing subnetting. So you're just like, okay, it's time for us to drink a bourbon. So
you just chill out. This little glass, this almost like a spear tip,
mm-hmm.
or like a spade almost, like in cards. It's like a spade, except it doesn't point at the top because you have to be able to drink it.
Yeah.
It's called the Glencairn. It was invented by the sister of actress Glenn Close. Her name was Glencairn. Totally kidding. I just made that up. I don't know why. It's probably Scottish, honestly. But yeah, it's a Glencairn glass. I'll look up why it's called that and where it came from at some point, and we'll tell you. Until then, Google it.
Yep. Let's give this a try.
So nice. That's a really good one. Kudos to Colpick.
You know, it's neat. It's got a little bit of that burn, but it's still pretty smooth.
Yeah, that's really good. And the wheated bourbon, you know, the wheat tends to be a little sweeter on the palate, you know, as opposed to like a rye or a high rye. A rye whiskey would not be a bourbon, but a high rye bourbon would have a bit more of a bite to it.
Yeah.
A little bit more peppery, and it would amplify the burn of the alcohol as well. So the wheat kind of mellows that out a little bit. Wheat's is softer than a rye. So, and fun fact, not to generalize too much or, you know, anything or to write anybody off, but I tend to find that people who in the north, those harsher climates, most of my friends up there tend to favor ryes.
Okay, interesting.
And I'm not sure why. I grew up in the north. I don't. So, but
yeah,
you know, I think it's that like the Noah Kahn song suggests. You know, forgive my northern attitude. I was raised on Little Light, so I was raised out in the cold. You know, that kind of thing. You're used to harsher climates, and so harsher spirit in your mouth tends to feel more like home.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just completely guessing. We'll blame that on the mule. I don't care.
So, this is good.
Yes. This is good. I could have probably picked a port wine to drink for our next topic, but I didn't want to. So let's just segue awkwardly into talking about ports.
Okay. Well, let's bring up just a few last topics about Section 1 that I think are important. I mentioned the shirt. You know, where does 127001 come from? What does this shirt mean? And there are reserved addresses. I mentioned 0. That's going to be your network ID that tells you, what your network is on.
Okay.
There's 255. That's your broadcast. So if you say 192.168.1.255, it's to every device on that 1.0 network, right? Then there's the loopback. 127.0.0.1 is actually the most famous. It's not the only one. There's a whole scheme for it. But it's the most famous one. This one is a self-reflection address or a home address or a local host. So there's no place like home is what this shirt is really referencing.
Yeah.
What do you even do with this address? It's for testing. It's for kind of self-addressing on a computer. So every computer can talk to 127.0.0.1, and it's just talking to itself.
My mother-in-law does that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So what does this mean in a bar setting? This is the bartender goes up to the keg, pours herself a drink from the tap, and it's for her to just test the tap, right? She's making sure that it's got enough, do you guys use carbon dioxide, I guess, to pump it through? So you got CO2 that comes through. And so you're checking CO2 levels, you're checking, is the tap clean? Is the tap clear? All these things. Does your lever work? I mean, all that stuff. So
did we hook up the right beer to the right one?
Exactly. So this is just self-testing before you're doing anything else.
Okay.
From there, you also have what's called APIPA addresses. If you ever get on your computer and you're like, dang, I don't have internet, and you do an IP config in command prompt that I mentioned earlier, and you get a 169.254.whatever address, that means it's an APIPA address. Your DHCP system is broken. Whether that is you can't reach your server, or you can't reach maybe the DHCP server, or you can't reach the router, or maybe your computer has become unplugged or something like that, or you're not connected to Wi-Fi, whatever it might be.
Okay. So if I get that address, I call you up and say, I'm APIPAing again.
Yes, and I'm going to know exactly what that means. And then I'm going to walk you through about 5 or 6 different troubleshooting steps. And the first one is your cable plugged in?
First one is your computer on?
Yeah, well, if your computer's on, then you got the APIPA address. Okay, so every device has an APIPA address that they register whenever you don't get an address from DHCP, unless you're set static, and then you get the static address you're set to. Okay, network address translation, NAT. I mentioned last week private and public addresses.
Yep.
Okay, private addresses are what's on the inside of your network. Public is what's on the outside.
Okay.
This is the reason why we didn't lose the internet, and the internet didn't just break whenever we ran out of addresses. Okay. Because IPv4, we've been running out of addresses for 40 years. Okay, because I talked about how many hosts you could have.
Because there's about 4 billion porn sites. Is that why?
Well, there is that, but I talked about how many the host addresses you could do. So 2 to the what minus 2, right? Yeah. So if you said 2 to the 32nd minus 2, that's how many host addresses you could have without NAT, and that'd be like 4.3 billion addresses. Okay, so 4.3 billion addresses in the 80s looked like a great scheme that we could do.
But no way we'll hit this.
Yeah, but then you got Internet of Things, where your toilet has a sensor now. It has an IP address.
So dumb.
So because of that, we have network address translation, where you have a public IP address on the outside of your home, or facing the outside of your home, and private addresses on the inside of your home, so that one public IP address correlates to a whole list of private addresses inside.
Got it. Okay.
So that's what NAT is.
And does that also protect me from somebody accessing my toilet remotely?
It does, because of the next thing, or what we're going to lead into the next thing is, you only have one address that a hacker can get to, as long as you don't have any open ports, which we're going to talk about in just a second.
Okay.
And as long as you don't have any open ports, there's only one address that is public facing, and you tend to have a firewall between the public and the private. So now they have to fight through your firewall in order to get to anything, local on the inside.
Okay.
That's why it's important to have really good firewall settings. So I referenced port forwarding. Let's talk about ports and protocols, because what the heck is a port anyways?
Right.
Okay. A port is not a physical thing. It is a logical way of connecting via a certain protocol to a certain device. When you write out a port, it's going to be written something like this. You've got IP address, colon, and then the port number.
Okay.
And maybe you can see that IP address, colon, port number.
Zoom in.
It's going to go the wrong spot. But
no, I mean people at home. Zoom in
woo!
on your.
Yeah. There you go. So IP address and then port number. You'll notice I've used the port number 80, which is, we're going to talk about that in just a moment.
Okay.
But this is like trying to go to the internet on 192.168.1.30, which probably wouldn't work, but that's okay. We'll talk about what this is actually doing in just a second.
Port 80.
Okay. So that can go away. Let's get into it. Ports and protocols. Last week we talked about the OSI layer, or the OSI model. Okay. You have 7 layers, a 7-layer dip. We decided which one is the beans.
Right.
Yep. So let's just say in this case, the beans of 7-layer dip is going to be the layer number 4, the transport layer, where your ports and protocols are. Okay. We talked about TCP and UDP. We mentioned there's a guy who's in the bar who just throws beer, doesn't care who catches it.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a guy who gives a beer and makes sure that the beer is received and drank and then paid for and all that stuff.
Right.
Right.
We talked about the stadiums where they're just chucking beers at people. Yep.
So IP address, that was the address you used to get to the bar. Your port is what door you go through when you get to the bar.
Okay.
And then your protocol is the language you use inside the bar. Okay.
Japanese.
Yeah, if you're turning Japanese. Last night was, or 2 nights ago was Singo. And we had some of that on there.
Yep. And next week is sushi, where we're turning Japanese again.
Okay, so when we talk about ports, there's 3 major categories.
Okay.
You're going to have the well-known ports. That's 0 through 1023.
Okay.
You're going to have registered ports. That's 1024 to 49,151.
Wow.
And you're going to have dynamic or private ports. That's 49,152 to 65,535. I'm going to flash that on the screen so everybody can see that.
There.
Yeah, well, because 65,535, that's the end of your ports. You can't use any more after that.
That's silly.
Okay, so the well-known ports, that's going to be your standard reservations. They are actually registered to a protocol. Okay. So they're registered, to HTTP, to file transfer protocol, to secure shell, to SMTP, those different protocols.
Is this just in my house?
This is worldwide.
Okay.
Okay. Port numbers are registered with a group called the IANA. So these, 0 through 1023, they are registered with that group or with that organization, and these are public for everybody, right?
Okay.
So everybody uses these when they pull open a computer, they pull up their email, they're going to use a protocol for outgoing mail, they're going to use a protocol for incoming mail, and there's a couple different ones we'll talk about in a second. But you're always going to use those protocols, okay? Which means, because you're using those protocols, you're always going to use those registered ports, okay? Then you have registered ports that are outside of the well-known, the 1024 to the 49,151. Those are for specific applications like gaming servers, or maybe you have a application that you use that has a specific port that it's registered with the IANA.
Okay.
All the rest of them, from 49,152 to 65,535, are dynamic or private ports. These are temporary ports your computer uses to communicate back and forth with servers. So you are trying to register with google.com. It's going to use some of these dynamic ports temporarily to get that communication out and then back, on the port that it's looking for.
Okay.
Okay. Some very common doors. I used port 80 in my example that I wrote down. 80 is HTTP. It's the main door to get inside of your bar. Okay. This is what you use for, you access a web browser, and you type in http://www. blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then you have 443, which is HTTPS. The S stands for secure. Okay. That is your secret VIP lounge door. Only people who have the VIP membership can get inside that door, okay? Because secure means it's encrypted.
So can multiple people use a port at the same time?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
In fact, if you think about the amount of people who are using the internet right this second, many of those people are using HTTP all at the same time.
Sure.
Okay. So ports, there's no like occupancy on this. It's just if you are asking and receiving on that port and on that protocol, then you're good to go.
Okay.
Okay. So then you have 25. This is kind of like your mail delivery door, because 25 is SMTP. We're going to come back to that in just a second. And then 22 is SSH, or secure shell. That's like the manager's office, and only certain people with certain access can get inside of there. Right.
You need the safe code.
Yeah, exactly. You need, a password or a safe code or whatever. Okay. This is very good.
That is very good.
Ooh, there's a little bit of burn on that one for sure, but it's very smooth. It's good with that nice burn. Common ports. We mentioned a few of them. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into them. You got 22 and 23. 22 is secure shell. Okay. That is SSH. You're going to remote into a device, but it's encrypted and you have to use a password.
All right.
Okay. 23 is you're remoting into a device using command line on telnet. It's not encrypted. So if I'm troubleshooting a device, I might pull open what we call a terminal, something like PuTTY, and use port 22 to communicate directly to a device, a specific device, because remember, IP address, port. So I'm going to use 22 to get into a device, but I have to use a password. And it will all be encrypted communication. So my password is not in plain text. It's you see the little asterisk when you fill in a password? That's what it's doing.
Okay.
23 is telnet, which means I might have to use a password, but when I type that password in, if you're using some kind of packet sniffer or like a Wireshark or something like that, you're going to see that password delivered to that device in plain text, which means you can read it now.
Packet sniffer feels like a derogatory term for somebody. Like, you little packet sniffer.
Well, yeah, a packet sniffer would be somebody who is just constantly in everybody's business.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a couple of those too.
We're going to start finding packet sniffers in the bar.
Yeah. I'm going to get a sticker made and I'm going to walk around and slap it to their forehead.
Yep. You're a packet sniffer.
Packet sniffer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what that means.
And that's okay. We don't have to explain it to them.
Yeah. Watch the video.
Yeah, watch the video. That's it. So then you got port 80, we talked about a while ago, is HTTP. Then you have port 443, HTTPS, the secure one. Again, anything communicating on port 80 does not have encryption. So if you type in your password when you're accessing a bank website, and the bank website is using HTTP, then your password is in plain text and somebody using a packet sniffer could find it.
Oh, man.
But more than likely, if you're using a bank website that's, not the app on your phone, but an actual website, you're going to see a nice little lock signal in the top left. And you're going to see HTTPS because they have encryption on their website. So when you type in the password, it's not in plain text.
So if you don't see the little lock on your bank website, change banks.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, some other common ones, and nobody needs to memorize this at home, but if you do, all the more power to you. DNS, we talked about last week, where we give names to IP addresses because computers are good with IP addresses. They're good with binary, but they're not good with names.
Yep.
So there's DNS that correlates the name to the address. That happens on port 53.
Okay.
DHCP, where you hand out addresses to users or clients and devices, that's going to be 67 and 68.
I think I have a new shorthand now.
Okay.
I think because DNS sounds like do not serve.
Yeah.
So I might be like, hey, bartender, see that guy over there? He's a 53.
He's a 53. He's on the DNS list.
Yeah, he's on the DNS. 53. Code 53. We cut him off. Code 53.
There's a couple people that I can think of that might get on that list.
Historically,
yeah.
There's been a few. So, yeah.
Interesting. That's it. I like that.
Yeah, code 53.
Okay, so the next one.
I'll forget that before we open the tavern again, but okay.
That's okay. Yeah, I'll remind you. RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. That's going to be 3389.
Okay.
A lot of people have heard of remote desktop. They don't know what it is, but it is a Windows-based service that you can use to access another computer on your network. Or if you open it up to the outside world, you can access a computer on an outside network. Don't open up this port to the outside world. Use another application that has remote capabilities like a VPN or TeamViewer or something like that, Quick Assist.
Yeah, TeamViewer.
Because RDP is the #1 port that hackers use to get inside your network.
Oh.
So earlier we were talking about you got all the private addresses, you got the public addresses, but if you have a port that's open and a hacker can find that port and exploit it, they're going to.
And then they're going to know what your bowel movements look like.
Exactly. So they're going to use the RDP port, most likely, to find your toilet sensor to understand that information.
Yeah, he had corn last night.
Yes. If that was the end all of a hacker getting into your network, there'd be a lot less hackers.
Right? Man, we just need to make the information boring or weird.
Boring and weird and gross. Yeah.
They'll be like, why am I doing this? I need to rethink my life choices.
Yeah, I got no money from this. I just got disturbed. That's it.
Right.
So going from there to port 25, I mentioned that's your mail delivery door, right?
Yep.
25, it's actually your mail going out. 25 is for SMTP, and it's for outgoing mail. Okay. Then you have 110, which is POP3, and you have 143, which is IMAP.
Okay.
POP3, these are POP3 and IMAP. Those are your incoming mail services or protocols. So POP3 was an older protocol. It's version 3, right? So there was a POP1 and POP2. They sucked. POP3 came out and still sucks, but that's neither here nor there.
Wow.
POP3 was the mail goes to the device and it deletes from the server, which means it was specific for you only have one device connecting to the mail server.
Right.
Like your computer. One computer, and that's it. Okay.
So basically just downloads it from the server, stores it on the local device, removes it from the server.
Gone.
Okay.
Yep. So if you have a email that is POP3 and you have a computer and a phone and a phone and a phone, you may have problems because
the first
you may
device to get it is the only one that gets it.
Well, no, so they'll all get it, but then now you can't just hit the delete button and it deletes from everywhere. It only deletes it on the specific device you're on. But it deletes it from the server. So it's there and then it's just it's not good. Okay. We have a couple customers who use POP3 for very specific reasons, and I'm like, man, I wish that those reasons would go away because going to IMAP, or better yet, doing something with an Exchange server like through Microsoft 365 would be so much more useful.
I know.
But there are reasons to stick with POP, and if you stick with POP, that's fine. Just know that it needs to go away eventually. So IMAP, on the other hand, it syncs to all your devices. So if you use an IMAP server on port 143, your incoming mail comes in, you delete it from your phone, it deletes it from the server, from your computer, from every device. Okay. So very big difference between those two. We're not going to dive any deeper than that, other than just to say IMAP is much closer to the future than POP is. POP is old, it's antiquated, and if you don't have a specific reason to use it, don't.
Yep.
Okay. 20 and 21 is file transfer protocol. That was the old way of moving big files from device to device. You may have heard of
uploading to a website or
So you may have heard of an FTP site where you're downloading specific files from somewhere. That's what they were using, those two ports, 20 and 21, to make that happen.
Now you just use Dropbox or something, and
yes. So 445 though is kind of like the next part of that. It's SMB, or server message block.
Okay.
And that is what Windows uses to share files and printers on local networks. So you've probably seen, you may not have noticed that you've seen it, but in the back of your head, if your memory was 100% perfect, you might know that you've seen SMB over NetBIOS, or SMB for file communication between devices on a local network kind of thing, which is cool, but it also has kind of been improved upon in later versions of Windows. So the original SMB is not at all what we use now. So FTP, kind of going away in place of other things, and 445 SMB is changing dramatically over the years. So that's cool. But we talked about all of those ports. There's way more ports than that. Let's talk about port forwarding. Okay, because this kind of wraps up this section. Port forwarding is when you tell your router or your firewall there is a public IP address. That's your public IP address.
Yep.
And on a specific port, we want to communicate to a certain device with a certain application. Okay. An example of why you might use that is, again, we do security cameras. You may want to communicate from the outside world directly to your camera server. And your camera server has a client, it has an application on it that runs on specific ports that are part of that section 2 or category 2 of ports that I talked about earlier, where that company is now registered with the IANA to say, okay, these ports belong to our system. So if you port forward on these ports, you're going to be communicating through our application. Okay, so you set up a port forwarding rule that if somebody on their cell phone accesses their client device, their application for the camera server or camera software, it's going to communicate back to our public IP address, and then it's going to be forwarded based on the ports that are registered to the inside of the network to the specific IP address of the cameras. So no other application can use those ports except for the camera software. And it's not going to all the camera addresses. It's not going to your computer addresses. It's not going to your phones. It's only going to come in on that particular application to the specific IP address of the camera server. In the next section, we're going to talk about server-client architecture and kind of explain that just a little bit deeper. And what is a client, what's a server, and all those things.
So is this, I may be jumping ahead, but is this more like I have a Ring camera, a Ring doorbell, and I have a Ring app to look at my doorbell? So is this kind of like Ring would have registered a couple of ports for only their usage? Is that kind of how?
Kind of, except Ring, you have physical devices on your doors and your cameras. You don't have a physical server here.
Sure. Your
server is somewhere else. So you're not port forwarding into your network, right? And port forwarding is only specifically for coming in. It's anything on the outside going to a specific thing on the inside. But you're actually going the other direction. You're taking all of your Ring stuff and sending it to a server somewhere else. So in the next section, we're going to talk about different kinds of architecture. And you'll kind of see where that's at and whenever we get to that section.
Then let's get to that section.
That being said, let's go on to the next.
Let me finish this bourbon and find something else to drink. Something easy.
All right, so Joey,
yes,
we are
sir.
back for round 3. We've
back.
kind of led into a little bit with the client server architecture a little bit from the last section. But now you've picked out a can for us that I think the name of it kind of fits the name of some of what we talked about.
Well, we talked about it. We teased it. I got a taste for it. Now we're drinking some hard cider.
There we go. Some CIDER instead of CIDR.
Yeah, CIDER. This is Country Boy's Classic Hard Cider. And what I like about this is it's not super sweet like an Angry Orchard. But it's not super dry like a lot of the craft ciders you would get out of like Asheville or something like that. The Diskin ciders and stuff tend to be, they're usually pretty good, but they can be a little drier. So this one is a great middle ground. It's very accessible for anybody to just pick up and enjoy. It is 6.9%. So you got to be careful of that. And that is because apples just naturally ferment right about 6.9%. So there's nothing added or taken away from the natural fermenting process of the cider. So, Yeah,
I've been sipping on it in between takes here, and I would tell you the taste of this is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I really like the taste. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and it's gluten-free, which is great for your abs. And then, I don't know, one of my favorite lines, I don't think it actually made it in the movie, but in the trailer of the original Deadpool movie, he says something about gluten being evil.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, yeah, that makes sense. Gluten's pretty evil.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's yeah.
Well, you guys have a gluten-free crust that you guys do for your pizza, and I
Yes, we do.
had one of those last night on the pizza you guys call the Nightingale,
Oh my gosh.
which is a lot more health conscious. But man, oh man, was that pizza fantastic! So,
That gluten-free. I mean, it's a cauliflower crust, but
mhm.
you can't tell. It just tastes like a really good thin crust pizza.
Yeah,
And
it does. It was awesome.
I love it so much.
So, this is a cider drink. I'm going to come back to the abbreviation cider. I mentioned last week it was classless interdomain routing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And basically what that meant was you had the class A, class B, class C. We talked about that last weekend today. And classless means we took the hard 8, the hard 16, the hard 24, and we kicked it out the window and said, forget these hard limits. Instead, we're going to vary our network scheme based on the number of devices we have and plus future growth.
So it's not hard anymore. It's classless.
Yep. So we have hard cider here, but we have soft limits there, which is very nice for being able to kind of create a network scheme that's exactly specific to what you're trying to do for your network.
I love it. And I love the cider.
Yeah, and that, that's sometimes kind of hard to do with a home network. Maybe your router doesn't support doing, limited cider scopes or IP address scopes. But if it does, play around in the settings of your router if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, just remember you can always factory reset and start again. Just make sure you have plenty of time for your day for doing all of that. Don't do something when you only have 30 minutes to play around.
Yeah.
And in the future we may grab some equipment and do some labs like you suggested last week and show people how they can do some of this stuff on their own. But I need to gather some equipment for that and set up a really good lab for everybody. But moving out of cider, moving back into the server client architecture, we briefly touched on it in the last section. What is a server? What is a client? Okay, a server can be a device, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be an application that offers a service. Think of this as your bar back brings a drink to your customer, right?
Okay.
So the bar back is the server. Or in a restaurant, you might think your server or waitress or waiter, that is your server bringing you your food item or your drink item, okay? The client is the device or application that receives the service. It's your customer. So if I'm sitting here at the chair and I've got my little dog Crypto with me, then I order a drink. I initiate the conversation by saying, hey, can you get me a garage beer? Or in the past couple of months, can you get me an athletic, whatever it might be?
Yeah. And they say you're using the wrong port.
You
need a password.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the bartender then, she is going to say, okay, I've got your drink. Let me bring it to you. She delivers that service to me in the chair, and Crypto gets all excited because somebody comes up and pets him.
Right.
Okay. So that's server client architecture. You have a server that delivers a service. You have a client that receives the service. You could have a device that is acting as multiple kinds of servers. So you could have this really fancy machine and it acts as maybe your DHCP server. It may act as your DNS server. It may act as your NTP or Network Time Protocol server. So it's doing all of these functionalities all at once. It's delivering those services to your client machine. Okay. I mentioned in the last section about camera servers because you have a server. It is taking all the camera data and it's putting it into its system. It's recording it to its hard drives. And then it delivers the service through a client, which is the application you use to access the software. It's delivering that information to your device so you can see the cameras without actually having to go to the server to see the camera footage.
Got it.
Okay. A client orders the drink. They initiate the conversation. The server delivers the drink. Ports that we talked about in the last section, they specify the kind of drink to be delivered. Okay. Port forwarding specifies to whom that specific drink gets forwarded to. Okay, so we talked about ports. Maybe you're using port 25 as outgoing mail. Maybe you're using port 80 is going to HTTP. So that's the type of drink you're going to order.
Okay.
So the client 192.168.1.35 orders a drink. That is, I went to google.com and typed in, where can I find Tipsy Tech Talk? It's doing a request on port 80 to Google's servers. Google's servers say you can find Tipsy Tech Talk at youtube.com/Tipsy Tech Talk. And it's giving a reply back through port 80.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got the client orders the drink. The server delivers the drink. The port is the type of drink. The protocol is the language used to ask. Okay?
Okay.
There are a couple different kinds of server architectures or architectures that are used. A dedicated server, think of the camera server, that's going to be one functionality. It's specifically looking for camera footage from the cameras to then send to the client device. Okay. That is very similar to, you have a keg room. It holds just kegs. It's only for beer. Okay. So that's the dedicated server functionality. Okay. Then you have peer-to-peer or P2P. You might see it abbreviated as. There's no central server. In this case, both parties are going to be the servers and clients. Okay. So one party says, hey, can you give me this information? And initiates the request.
Yeah.
The other party says, here's this information.
So that's like a tailgate party where everybody just brings their own beer.
Exactly.
Everybody's just drinking everybody's beer.
That's right. So it's just everybody brings a drink, whatever kind of drink it may be, beer, liquor, whatever it is.
Okay.
And then everybody shares everything.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. This is some great parties to go to.
Yeah. And maybe more on P2P next week.
Yeah, there might just be a little bit more on that.
Might be a little bit.
So that's nice. You can think of that as a kind of a torrent website.
Yeah.
Because torrent websites aren't based on there's a central server that delivers that information. It's more of all devices share and torrent that information back and forth. Okay.
Like a Napster.
Yeah.
The most famous.
BitTorrent would be another one. That's pretty common.
Yeah. But even the non-nerds would probably have heard of Napster because Metallica made such a big stink of it, and that whole thing. What was that, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as you're at least 20 years old, you probably have heard of it.
Yeah.
Then you have another kind of architecture, and this kind of divvies back to something you mentioned earlier, but it's the cloud and the software as a service, where the server is in the cloud. So you were talking about Ring earlier.
Okay.
Where Ring has dedicated servers where they store your information. They store your video footage. So your cameras will record their video footage. They push it to your router, right? Your router's your gateway. They push it out of your gateway. They go to Ring's servers. Ring servers store that footage. Then when you want to watch that footage, you request that footage back from the cloud, back from Ring, to be able to watch your footage from the cameras you have locally.
Okay. I
personally prefer a dedicated server that's on site for a couple different reasons. But that's a different kind of server client architecture. As your phone becomes a client to a server that's no longer at your premises. So you're not doing port forwarding the same way that you were before. But now you're requesting on specific ports to Ring servers for that camera footage. Okay. So let's wrap this whole episode up in one little bow and talk about the whole sequence of it. Your computer is a client. It looks for a drink. The website you're using or the place you're going to order the drink is going to be your server. It's the bartender. The IP address is the specific bar you walked into. The port number is the specific door you walked into. The port number is, or the protocol is the polite way, emphasis on polite, that you asked for your drink, you confirmed you got the right one, and if you don't have any of those sections that work together, then you just wander around thirsty.
Oh, man.
We don't like thirsty. We're not thirsty tech talk.
Nope.
We're tipsy tech talk, which means we get our drinks because every single one of those things we make work together.
Yep. I like it. That's a complicated way of ordering a drink.
It sure is, but what's interesting is it happens all the time, and just like in networking, you don't realize what's going on in the background. It just works. It just does its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, on my side, I recognize what's going on because if it doesn't work, I've got to figure out which one of those steps is broken.
Yeah.
But for just the average consumer, the average user, they don't realize all the things that goes into that simple request to pull up facebook.com or simple request to go to youtube.com/@tipsytechtalk.
Yeah.
And there's lots of steps to it that go. Even DNS is such a simple thing that people don't think about. But you typing in Facebook or youtube.com has to go to an address, which has to go to some registration somewhere. And if one little thing is off with the DNS server, you can't access that page. So it's super simple things make really big problems sometimes. So, if you ever get frustrated because your tech isn't working right, just realize there's way more to it than just you typing in facebook.com.
That's right. Or pulling up an app so out of the apps, let's take a moment here.
Yeah.
If I have a Facebook app on my phone, is that like hardwired to look to that specific address?
So it's probably not hard coded for a specific address. I mentioned last week very briefly, there's something called dynamic DNS where you can register dynamic, your address may change a lot. Of course, Facebook, they're going to have static IP addresses reserved through their ISP for all of their stuff. But basically what happens is there is a table somewhere that says facebook.com is registered to this address and this address and this address, because they're going to have more than one. And so when you type in facebook.com, your computer or your application queries that specific name, goes to the DNS server, realizes what IP address it should try to use. It uses the first one, then the second one, then the third one. It finally finds one where it hits it. And so your application is going straight to that IP address because it's registered to a DNS server somewhere.
So if it takes longer to load, it just may be looking for that.
It could be.
Server
it could be, your Wi-Fi. It could be your signal strength, your ISP. It could be because you're, not connected to Wi-Fi at all. Maybe you're using cellular in the middle of LBL and your cell signal sucks.
Yeah.
So it could take a little bit longer for that. The delays could be a million reasons. Some of it could be the processing speed on your phone. Or, maybe you need to reboot your phone because your RAM is full. Nobody thinks about RAM when they talk about cell phones because that's a computer topic, but your phone has RAM too. So there's millions of reasons why something might be delayed. But it is worth noting that, if you click on an application, it's going to look for those DNS queries. It's going to try to find the name that goes to the IP address and then reach out to that IP address, and hopefully it will connect.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that like the Facebook app is a dedicated browser that only looks for that specific address? Like it won't go anywhere else. It's only going to lock in on.
You could probably say that. Applications are applications, right? A browser, Google Chrome, is an application. Its functionality is inherently different than like the Facebook application. For an example, you and I have been using a Couch to 5K application because we're training for a 5K in April.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah. So that Couch to 5K application is doing a specific function that was coded into it, right? So the Facebook app, it is specifically looking for Facebook's information and pulling it in. It's not like a browser that's requesting through HTTP necessarily. It's requesting based on IP addresses and ports. And there is a portion of it that's probably hard coded that says, hey, I don't need to look through every single IP address in the world. Facebook instead said, here's all my IP addresses that I use. Let me put those in the code and search through those first. So you don't have to, go searching through the whole internet to find Facebook. It's instead probably, and I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, I don't work for Facebook, I don't know for sure how they coded their program or their application.
Well, you should.
But yeah, no kidding. But I'm suggesting that there is a smaller list it goes through. It phones home to those lists, find the one that it connects to first, and then grabs a hold of it and uses it to pull your information. But it doesn't have to pull the information that google.com would pull for Facebook.
Okay.
It only has to pull the information that Facebook delivers through that connection, or through the code and development that is there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the whole time, it's using IP addresses, but it sticks a port at the end of it. If you're getting on google.com and you type in facebook.com, it's going to use port 80 to request HTTP traffic. If you're logging into Facebook, it's going to use HTTPS because it's probably encrypted.
Okay.
And so it's going to use 443 to pull that information. Once you get into Facebook, you're using the browser side, so you're still using 80. But if you're using an application, it might be a totally different port, because remember, 0 through 1023 are well-known ports, where 1024 or beyond are the registered ports. So Facebook probably has ports that are inside that 1024 to 51, 152, I think I said is what earlier. They probably have ports inside of that where it does some communication through the application itself.
Okay. Wow. You just wrinkled my brain.
That's what I'm good for. Drinking alcohol and wrinkling brains. That's the way I do things.
Okay.
So hopefully I haven't given anybody a headache.
It's a lot to digest, though.
I will say, the stuff I covered today, I spent semesters learning, right? So if you, at the end of today's episode, have not grasped a particular part of it, maybe it's the subnetting, maybe it's ports and protocols, maybe it's, whatever, don't feel like you should learn that in an hour or an hour and a half. Some of that stuff is like, you need weeks and weeks and weeks of being exposed to it and learning it and understanding it, so you can build from one topic to the next topic to the next topic. It's not all, you learn it in an hour. That's just, it's almost impossible to do that so quickly. But feel free to watch this video over and over and over again.
Right, until it sticks.
Yeah, until you got it. And then, go check out other videos. Network Chuck is one that I really like on YouTube. He's fantastic. He's humorous, way funnier than I am. But he explains subnetting in a way that I think is super easy to understand. There's a lot of other ones. Of course, you can type in CCNA, you can type in Cisco training, you can type in whatever you want, and you'll find subnetting and IP addressing on YouTube that will really dive into some of the deeper ways of explaining, or better ways of explaining than what I did today. But hopefully this is enough to expose people, so when they pull up their computer and they're like, gosh, I can't connect to the internet, they have a starting point for troubleshooting.
I gotcha. Okay.
And if you're an IT person and you're like, hey, you totally missed out on this section, that's fine. Like I said, this is kind of like, not super deep diving. It is a deep dive, but it's not a super in-depth for how all of this works. Let me know in the comments below the things that I missed, or if you're like, hey, you got that wrong or something, that's fine. Critique me, and we will point those things out in future episodes and say, hey, we may have mentioned this and it was slightly different, so you just want to keep this in mind when you're doing it. We are happy to make sure that we point out accurate information or inaccurate information we may have shared, and go as far as we can to make sure that the listeners are as educated as they can be, and as tipsy as they can be.
That's right.
Without driving.
Yes. No driving.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's finish these ciders, and I don't know. Maybe go take a nap.
Yeah, a nap sounds pretty good.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, guys, girls, if you are watching this, remember, always follow your local laws and regulations. If you're gonna Whether you're drinking a mule or something straight, something with ice, maybe something that's in a can, whatever it is, just make sure you don't drink and drive. Make sure you follow your laws and local regulations. If you want to do something in your home bar, that's great. Just make sure you give up your keys when you're done. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. We are Tipsy Tech Talk. I'm Joseph, General Manager of a local IT company.
Yeah, I'm Joey. I run the bar and talk about alcohol.
Yep.
And pick on you for tech stuff.
That's right. So we will see you next time.